I started doing workshops and doing groups where I'm getting up in front of others, like outside of the gym setting, and talking about resilience and perseverance and goal setting and vision and taking action. You should know what 1 hour of your time is worth. You should know the value that you bring to the marketplace. You know what your passion is. Starts with clarity of vision. If you don't have the clarity of vision, whatever next thing you get, you're not going to see it through because you don't have the clarity of vision. So the point of my pain was being told you will never run or jump again. And all that stuff, I was like, you know what? Like, I want to be able to take this even bigger. If you know why you do what you do, you have to know how to charge for what you do. That's how you're going to change your life, and that's how you're going to leave a legacy for your children and your family. You got to know your worth. Happy Tuesday, ladies and gentlemen. This is Rob, and I'm back with episode number 379 of Shut Up and Grind. We're all about overcoming obstacles, defying the odds, and inspiring you to clear whatever is blocking the path to whatever success you want in this lifetime. So if you're new to the show, we're all about beating the odds. How can I do this? How can I get through this? How can I not let this stop me? Because it's very easy to get consumed by the obstacles that come in your way. It's easy to let your past define you. It's very easy to let those things happen. What's hard? What's hard is to revisit the past and get the life lessons from what happened. Because everything bad that has happened to you, golden nuggets were left behind. And those people who watch this show on a regular basis, you know, I've been through divorce. I'm currently a single parent. I've lost everything and had to rebuild. I was told I would never run or jump again. Like, I've been through all of this stuff. So I don't just get up here on a soapbox saying I have all these degrees and all this and all this that. These are things that I've went through. And I find guests from all over the world. I've had guests from 6 of the 7 continents who have those similar stories of resilience and perseverance. Because those two things are what's needed to get you to the other side. Now, for my tip of the day, it goes hand in hand with what I just said. Don't rush to rebuild your life before you understand what broke it. And notice there it says what broke it. It didn't break you. Okay, it didn't break you. You guys know the first chapter in my book is titled There's Nothing Wrong with You. Okay? Growth doesn't come from pretending it didn't hurt. It comes from getting honest about what happened, what you learned, and who you're choosing to become next. And I picked this topic because my guest that's going to come on and help me have this conversation has stories and has experience and has created a movement to help women, especially single mothers, and helping them see what they really need to thrive. So this is Gail, and what began as simply wanting to give single moms a break evolved into a powerful mission centered on education, empowerment, and personality understanding. So let me welcome Gail to the show. How we doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you.
Awesome. Where are you joining me from?
Southeast Texas.
Southeast Texas. Nice. Are you originally from Texas?
I am.
Okay. What keeps you there?
Work. There's a lot of jobs in this area, and there's a lot going on industrially, and my family and my family's family and so forth all came here for work. Mostly the oil industry.
Mostly oil? Okay. So what was it like growing up there?
Oh, my goodness. Well, it was actually pleasant. I didn't know anything else, like most of us don't when we're young. And I thought that it was pretty cool. When we would go away and come back, though, the smell before pollution was under control, the smell was pretty bad. And I would say something and my dad would say, smells like bread and butter to me. So we,
I love it.
Yeah, we did well. Growing up was good.
Okay. So was there a time anywhere in that childhood that was tough for you?
Well, yeah, I was the youngest. There were four of us, and the others were much older. I was a surprise baby, and I knew it. And I was a skinny little girl, and I didn't have a lot of confidence in that fact because I felt like I was not as attractive as other people, and went through that phase of life, and it affected me quite seriously.
See, and fun fact, I'm also the youngest, but I'm the youngest of seven. I was
Oh,
also super skinny, and my brothers were all big and strong. Even when my sisters was, well, she is 5'9", almost 5'10",
wow.
excelling in all their sports. And I'm like, how did I get the short straw? Like, what is
Yeah,
going on here?
exactly.
And
Yeah.
right, and to add on top of it, I had a bad stutter growing up too. So
Oh.
to your point, that definitely affects you because like you almost feel like an outsider, right?
Yeah, I did. I felt like I was the odd man out a lot. Yeah.
Mhm. How did you get past that?
Years. I was in theater and I was very good at theater. So when I was on stage, I could be the star. I could be the one,
Mm,
and I won the awards for that. And so that made me feel better about myself. My older sister was the twirler, the drum major, the beauty. And so that made it a little harder, but she loved me dearly and took care of me. And so that was good. But I did do well in theater and public speaking. And so that helped me overcome some of my insecurities.
all right. So you said something there that I wanna expand on in a minute, but I wrote it down so I don't forget it. But first, before we dive in to the nuts and bolts of your journey, how would you describe yourself?
I'm very deeply serious. I have to force myself not to be negative because I'm
Hmm.
so serious. I'm also very deeply spiritual, but not in the traditional conservative, Christian way. I'm just
Yeah.
very deeply a believer in the spiritual life. Um, Basically, I'm a teacher. I have the desire to share what I've learned with other people. And that just seems to be a part of who I was from the very beginning, wanting to inspire other people the way I've been inspired by someone else. And so I do think that that's my core. I'm passionate about teaching and sharing, and that's me.
Love it. See, I always ask that question because we live in a world now where people are doing jobs that they don't want to do, that jobs where they're not fulfilled, but yet they stay in it, because we're blinded by the, oh, my sister's here. Hey, hello, Monique. And they're blinded by what society says they should do. But one thing that you said a minute ago, you said you did theater because when you're on stage, you could be the star,
Yeah.
right? And I think that's why I love doing these shows because you probably said that and just let it roll right off your tongue without really noticing the magnitude of that sentence. Like with me doing this podcast, yes, it's my show and I highlight my guests, but I get to ask the questions. It's like this is my domain. It's like and giving the audience what they need to hear. It's like so like I put myself in a position where I could be the star. So when you started doing theater, how did you notice the change within yourself as you did it more and your confidence built?
I'm not sure that I actually noticed the change in myself,
Mm,
until I looked back on it because I did it well. I was, you know, given awards and that sort of thing. And so I began to feel a confidence that I might not have felt otherwise. That was up until my marriage fell apart. But I followed the suit of my sisters and my parents. I did what they always wanted to please people. So I did what was expected, and I certainly didn't do anything that would have upset them. And my dad was not real fond of me going into theater and that sort of thing. He just equated that with Hollywood and Hollywood with immorality. So I wasn't encouraged in that direction at all. I was encouraged to be
Okay, but
traditional.
yeah. See, but you followed your heart though.
Part of the way I followed my heart until, until my husband came along, and then I
Okay.
followed the typical
Okay.
traditional path.
Okay. We'll get there in a second. Because you also just said something else that's also powerful. And like it says right up above us, your true power lies in your story. You said you didn't really notice until you looked back on it. Right? And that's what this show is all about. It's not about just saying, hey, I had cancer and I beat it. Right? There's more to the story than, and just for the audience, I do not have cancer. That was just the first example that popped into my head. Right? But there's more to that journey. Right, and we want to uncover those layers of how you became this version of you.
Okay.
So
Gotcha. Yeah.
So being a people pleaser, I can understand that because you're passionate about helping people.
Yeah.
Right, but talk about the negative side of being a people pleaser through your lens.
Well, you can sometimes lose within yourself what should be coming through because you're trying to make sure you please everyone. And my dad didn't want me to be in theater that much. And so my ex-husband, he didn't either, really. But if I was teaching school, that was acceptable. That worked. That's okay for a woman to teach school, be a secretary, be a nurse. In those days, that's pretty much your choices. And that was okay. But it wasn't okay to be something unique or different, to step out of the mold and to step into a different type of life. And so I often wonder what would have happened if I had been encouraged. My mother was encouraging. She did get me into a drama school as a freshman in college. She did do a lot in that direction. But I didn't have the personal confidence to say, I think I could be, I don't know, a news commentator or a newscaster or a journalist, a photojournalist, or whatever things you look back on thinking, if I'd had someone to say, you could do this or this or this. But instead, my dad was thrilled when he met the man that I married and thought, this is going to be great. She's going to get married. And right before I went down the aisle with him on my side, I said, I'm not sure I'm doing the right thing. He said, oh, yes, you are. Here we go. It was encouraged to follow the mold, to follow the traditional path that women are supposed to follow. And that was the era that I was in. Just finished a book about the woman who was a chemist, and she didn't fit in because she was a woman. So, there's still some stigma, but it's not nearly what it was then.
Absolutely. So you said a few things that I want to touch on. Yeah, if you see me looking down, it's because I'm taking notes.
Okay.
All right. So yeah, because I do my best to not interrupt. Like I want the guests to say everything that they want to say. But there are a couple things I want to expand on. One thing you said, be unique and different. Like how you just said how the chemist didn't fit in. That's okay. It's okay to stand out. Like that's what I need people to understand. It's okay to stand out. You don't have to be like everybody else. I always say, be the apple in the bowl of oranges, right?
That's
be
it.
the orange bowl of apples, right? Stand
Yeah.
out. That's how you get noticed. Like I went to a casting call for a reality show, and everybody's up there just all prim and proper. I went up and acted an entire fool, and I got casted because I stood out from everybody else. Everybody else says, hi, I'm so-and-so. I'm from this place. These are my talents. And I just went up there and just let the personality fly, because that's what's memorable. So it's okay. It's okay to be unique and different. And then I want you to expand on this next part because you brought up having the personal confidence. And what I tell people is confidence isn't something you get. Confidence is something that's in you that you've somehow suppressed. And you got to figure out what suppressed that confidence and allowed it to shine. So using your own journey, you said you didn't have the personal confidence. So how did you get that thing, or how did you allow it to come up?
That's a really, really good question. Well, I continued in theater, and I was a teacher in Houston for a while. But then when I started having babies, I was in a different city. Things were different at the time. They didn't have any childbirth classes. So I started my own organization. I started to realize that I was a leader in ways that other people might not have been, and that I could make things happen in the form of leadership without even knowing what I was doing sometimes. Just seeing a need and fulfilling it and making things work, getting people together to get things done. And I've been doing that ever since.
Okay. Love it. Love it. All right. So when I briefly scanned your bio, so I did catch, like the opening part that you found the man, you got married, you had the house, you had the 3 children, and then there was another component there that led to the downfall, right?
Yeah.
So just take me through the journey though. Like, how did you and your husband meet? Just how was it in the beginning? How did he propose? Like, take me through the whole journey in like, say, 5 minutes or less.
Okay. We were both in college here in the area. We were both at the university, and someone set us up. And we kind of clicked, only I had been pretty fed up dating wise. And so I just kind of didn't really push or care. I guess that's what attracted him. I wasn't real interested. And so he was drawn into that. And we went to Houston, met his parents and everything. And both of our parents were really thrilled that the 2 of us, had gotten together. So they kind of pushed it a little bit. And he went into the Navy. That was way back when Vietnam was going on, and long story there. But he went into the Navy, but they took a lot of them out whenever things were pulling back in Vietnam. And he came back to Houston, had a really good job. And I had a job as a drama teacher, and I was doing well, but then I got pregnant. I lost a baby. And so when I was pregnant again, my brother, who had a promising upcoming business here, hired my husband to come in and be business manager. And everybody in the family thought, oh, this is going to be great. You ever have that little bitty niggle in your brain that says, maybe not? Well, anyway, he came and we had a couple more babies. We built a beautiful home. Everything was going great. We were going to have the promising future. And he had some personality flaws. Most people have some, but he had some pretty serious ones. And my brother was getting really crosswise with him. And about the time of that happening, along comes the other woman. And it's pretty typical. I was home taking care of 3 babies. These babies were born in 3 years. I mean, a baby every year. It was crazy. I wasn't prepared for that at all. And here he was going on and on with a new business and so on and so forth. And I even had somebody come to me from work and say, so-and-so is after your husband. And I really didn't want to hear it. I wanted to trust him. But things fell apart that year, and we ended up divorcing. And I had these children, and I didn't want to put them in daycare. They were just starting school. One of them was still very young. And I did have to put the youngest one in a daycare situation, and had to go to work. And I found little jobs to do before I could get into teaching, and found out.
Let me pause you. Yeah, let me pause you right there. hold on, let me write down working so you can pick back up where you left off. No, because like that's a big deal, right? So we can't just gloss over that, right? So you find out that this other person is after your husband. So it got to a point to where you had to walk away. What was that like? Like you had the house, you had the kids, you have the husband. Now there's this other thing going on, and you have to make that decision. Like, walk me through that.
Well, I have to say, I'm a pretty tough person. I don't tolerate just any kind of thing. I told him, I'll forgive you anything we do, but he never would own up to it. So the night that he stayed out all night long with her on business, I confronted him. I said, I'm not going to live like this. Well, that was his cue. I mean, he wanted some way out. And so he moved out. And it was really traumatic time. And it was probably, you could, when people say, well, the rug was pulled out from under me, that's an understatement. It was like no one else in my family, immediate family, or even extended family, had ever had a divorce. Both of us tried to talk to his parents. We both tried to, it just went through counseling. It just didn't work. He wasn't, because he had been fired by my brother and his ego was destroyed. And she was there pumping up his ego and carrying on and so forth. And he just wanted a woman that would be there to take care of him and support him and give him what he needed. But the children just seemed to be like a second issue. I mean, I was more concerned about what this was doing to my kids than anything. And it was traumatic for those kids. It was, especially the older one, who was old enough to compute all of this to a degree. And so it was a year that we went through hell trying to get this situation resolved with the lawyers and the property and what I was going to do for a living and so on and so forth. And so I always have a heart for women who go through this sort of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And on the other side, I mean, I know we're focused on the women here, but like, I mean, some men get blindsided too, because I believe the number is 70% of divorces are initiated by women. So like it definitely goes both ways. But I get what you're saying, because you thought everything was all good, and then just you get that bug put in your ear that someone else is after him, and then to actually have the reality of it. Like when you initially had that reality, like walk me through
that. I just shed a whole lot of tears, and I began to just pray my heart out and try to figure out what to do. And I really wanted him to come back and just have everything be okay the way it had been. I mean, this is a man that would every night when his head hit the pillow say, "Have I told you today I love you?" And that, you go from that extreme to the other extreme. And it was truly devastating. And even to this day, there are things that happen that you want to say, what? That shouldn't have, people don't do that to other people. And so, yeah, because there have been more and more heartache brought on with our children who are now grown than I could have ever imagined. And I think I knew the grief that hit me that when this was falling apart. I knew that the years ahead were going to be really hard, and they were. They were.
Yeah, so I got divorced in 2005, and my two oldest kids, they're now 26 and 23. Like they're still dealing with the fallout from that.
Yeah.
Like just things that just carried with them this whole time. I mean, and our divorce wasn't incredibly ugly or anything, but there was just like a lot of neglect going on. Like they actually stayed with me, and their mom moved away. So like not having that maternal presence in the house, because I mean, let's face it, I'm a dad. You know, it's like people can always say you can play both roles. It's like we're not wired for empathy. You know what I mean? It's
No.
like, you know, so like our first instinct is solve the problem. Like that's just, you know, so like my daughter just left to go to the Navy back in November, and we had a pretty tough conversation before she left, where she was like, you know, there were days where I just needed a hug from you. And she's like, I didn't need the life lesson. I just needed you to listen to me. And I'm like, but I'm sorry. It's like that's what I do. You know.
I know that's true. I've done a lot of study and things, and I've remarried. I know that's true. Men want it, they want to fix things, whether it's the faucet or the emotional things, they want to fix it. And sometimes kids need something else. But yeah, we went through holy hell, and they have come out of it, but not totally. And one of them will never recover. So, men who are listening, just know that that's important for you to just listen and be there one-on-one with your child and not just with the other party, because my kids really just wanted their dad's attention.
Yeah, absolutely. And so shifting back specifically to the single mother. So now you're divorced, you're a single mom. How did you pick up the pieces? Because I'm sure it wasn't easy in the beginning.
Well, the hardest part was figuring out what I was going to do for a living, because my degree was in theater and art. Actually, it had a supervisor at college say, you can't do a minor in art. You know, this is too lopsided. You're too much. But I did it anyway. Nobody stopped me. So I got out, and my dad had insisted that I get a teaching certificate. Well, I got teaching certificates, but you don't just walk out and get a job teaching theater or art, because those are, you know, very few people and very few jobs. And so I really learned early on that I wasn't going to be able to do what I wanted to do. And that would be at least be a drama teacher, have my own theater department. No, because the interviewers knew I had 3 kids. And so my mother said she'd go with me anywhere. She was great support, but I realized that wasn't going to work. And then an advisor, a gentleman who was a school principal, said, the thing to do if you're going to stay in education is to get as many certifications to teach as many subjects as you can. And that way you will get employed. Well, I didn't really know what was coming, but I went ahead and I was very fortunate. The university here allowed me to go through a summer sessions and get a teaching certificate in English. Now, you can always get a job teaching English. And boy, that wasn't what I wanted to do, but I ended up doing it. And, you know, every time you do an essay, you have 125 essays to grade. And so it was tough, but I did get a job. And at one point, I had a job in a local school district where I wanted to work, I thought. But I had 5 preparations, and anybody who teaches knows that that's 5 different topics, different subjects in 5 different classes every day.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
No, I'm not a teacher, but that sounds like a lot.
It was ridiculous.
Okay.
I look back on that and I think that was absurd to give anybody that. And I was going through a divorce at the time. So yeah, it was a hell of a year. And, but I did do that for several years before I was recruited into special education. And teaching has a lot of pressure. And nowadays, I know it's a lot worse than it was then, because the kids are much harder to deal with, and you've got more problems than you had in those days. And the schools I was in were very strict, so it wasn't, you know, it wasn't quite as crazy as it is now. But even still, it was more than I wanted to handle, raising 3 little kids. Like, and they got to be preteens, and I was teaching teens, and oh my goodness, I would go home with this attitude of, you're not going to behave like they behave. And so I could get pretty restricted with them about things. And all the time there was a lot going on with the ex. And so, yeah, those were some really tough years. And, but you know, the people that are around you don't realize that you're dealing with all this. They see you at work, they see you dressed and fixed up, you know, for the impression that you give. In fact, in those days, women didn't go to school in blue jeans. And so you had to dress properly and you had to present yourself. And I did, but there was that pressure. And then the pressure of being a mom at the same time, and kids misbehaving and carrying on, and, you know, and not having a man in the house to handle some of the things that were going on made it, like you said, there's not a balance. When you don't have a female and a male balance in a home. And I know there can people, I can see both sides of all the arguments about that, but there was no balance. It was completely one-sided. And I would try to be both, you know, parent, mother, father, or whatever. It doesn't work very well, and it tears you up personally. So, yeah.
I just want to add too, on the other side of that, right? From my perspective, like you could definitely tell there was not a woman in my house. It's like you could definitely tell, you know. So, and now I have 5 kids. So having 5, and I'm by myself, and I'm running my business and doing my things. And I'm sure at some point this happened to you, where you're on the job and then the phone rings, and it's the school nurse, right? It's the school. I remember in the middle of placing a food order back when I managed restaurants, and you get the phone call from the preschool. Olivia had an accident, like she's gonna need clothes. I'm like we opened in 45 minutes, you know. But you have to react. So just take me through a time where something like that happened to you.
Gosh, let's see, which time?
Exactly.
Yeah, you know, in special ed in Texas, you have meetings. In most states, they call them IEPs, individual education plan meetings.
Yes.
We call them something different in Texas. But anyway, I had a student that I needed to be in a meeting for that day. And of course, I get the call, my son's sick, somebody needs to pick him up. And I go to school to explain that because they needed to get a substitute. And I remember vividly this counselor getting in my face and saying, "How can this be happening? How did you know this? When did you find this out?" And it was just so insulting, you know. This is a woman who never had any children. And I thought, okay, I kind of confronted her back. You know, I said, a few minutes ago, I found out he's very sick, you know, and I left. But that was just one incident. My mother, thank God, was around the corner. She could go pick them up when they were sick. And she did many times. But if she hadn't been, I don't know what I would do. You know, you're kind of locked into a situation, and the daddy is off, you know, he's not going to come do anything about it. He's doing important work in a different town. He's not going to do anything about it. So, I mean, it could be the other way around. Like you, it could be your wife not being there and nobody being there to help you. But people need to, I keep telling, I'm kind of get on a soapbox about it, but realize that what you're seeing on the outside of a single parent life isn't what's happening on the inside. You don't know what it takes to get clean underwear for everybody, lunches for everybody, good winter clothes for everybody. I mean, I used to figure out, how am I going to buy a pair of shoes, and which month am I going to have enough money left to do that? You know, it's so, and it's so prevalent in our world that people don't even have a clue. So that's why I'm always talking. I'm always talking about single moms and their needs. Like at Christmas, I put up something in the paper about the single mom Santa who needs assistance. You know, no matter how hard she's working, it's hard to make it work for children.
I want your opinion on this. One thing that I can't stand, and a lot of single, just women in general, like really cling to this word, independent. It's like I got to be independent. I got to do it all myself. And I always say, as human beings, we're not meant to do things alone. We are not. Like, I'm single myself, but I have help where I need it. Like, I have no problems admitting that. I'm not out here trying to be friggin' Superman. It's like if I need a hand with something, I have no problems asking for it. But like I've witnessed it, like I've heard it with my own ears, where someone is struggling. It's like, hey, do you need a hand? No, I can do it. But you don't have to. You
Yeah.
don't have to. It doesn't destroy your womanhood by asking for help. I promise it doesn't. So what are your thoughts on that?
Well, that's a big one for me because as a life coach and working with single moms, I'm always saying, do not hesitate to ask for help. People really do want to do something, but they don't know what to do until you ask. And it may be hard, but there are people who want to help you. And there are organizations and there are funds for you, but you have to be willing to ask and you have to be willing to go out there, make yourself vulnerable, but ask. You have to do that. And I'm not very good myself at asking, but I did have some support. I'll tell one quick story. I had just bought a home for the first time. I was a first time home borrower. So I managed to get a loan for this older house near my mom, and it was going to be ideal. But my son had a ruptured appendix and he nearly died in the hospital. And so I'm there in the hospital with him 24/7. And the house was closing, the deal was closing. I needed to move out of this one place to another place. So I did. I asked a friend at a church. I said, can give me some help? I know what it was. I had a refrigerator and I couldn't figure out how I was going to move the refrigerator. And I said, could you get a couple of guys to help me, move this refrigerator? So she was in a choir. They had choirs back then. Anyway, she was in a choir and she went to church that night and she told the choir what I needed. Those people came to the house, not only moved the refrigerator, I had already packed. They moved every box. They moved everything. And it was all because I was willing to say, I need help. Now, I'm not saying
Yes.
everybody's going to be that generous, but sometimes you don't realize that they're watching you and they want to do something, but they don't know what to do. And so in this
Right.
particular case, I said, I have a refrigerator you need to move, But I have always looked back on that and thought how gracious it was. But I asked, and I tell
Yes.
mom,
See,
you
and
can't.
that's the key. I tell people the answer is right in front of you. It's right in front of your face. And I actually just lived it myself a few weeks ago, where I'm trying hard to get on television here. I'm in Rhode Island, right? I'm trying to get on television to expand what I do so I can help more people. And I had my grand plan. I'm just going to drive down because, they get thousands of submissions a day. I said, so I'm just going to drive down and ask to speak to an executive producer. And so I get there, I practice in my 10-minute pitch in the car, and then I finally walk up there, and it's a by appointment only. So I'm like, ah. So you can't tell with the background, but I'm sitting in a gym right now. So I was working with one of my personal training clients the very next day, and I'm telling him my story. And so he goes, oh, he's like, I'm friends with 3 journalists. Because I told him, I said, I have to figure out a way to skip the line. It's like, because I'm very confident in my abilities. I'm like, if I can get in front of a producer, I'll get something in the future. I know I will, and which will allow me to help more people. So so he got me a face-to-face meeting with one of the journalists, and the journalist is going to forward all of my info to an executive producer. So he did say, I can't guarantee anything. He's like, but I can guarantee somebody will see your media kit and all that. But just from simply sharing the story got me a face-to-face meeting. So just to highlight what you just said, just ask.
Yeah.
Like there are people waiting for you. Go ahead.
Yeah. Well, and that's, I mean, there are many situations that I could talk about, excuse me, that I could tell you about that you not giving up with the first person that says no, going
Yeah.
forward and taking the next step, the second step, the third step. And I have a story that's written up about going back to college with my three children and what it took to get there and what all I had to do. But I had to do it one step at a time, not thinking that of the whole enchilada, not thinking I'm going to eat this whole elephant in one bite, but taking one step in the right direction and then trusting the God of the universe that's going to honor my work. And I have story after story like that. Um, and not that everything's been peachy and keen in every way, but a lot of things have happened because I didn't give up, because I had the resilience to stick with it and not, okay, this didn't work out, so I'll try this, that sort of thing.
Yeah, see, I've done multiple episodes on failure, and I always say like failure isn't real. Right? It's only a failure if you stop. To your point, that's the only way. When I first got into fitness, right, as a 3-time college dropout, didn't really have much in savings. My credit was awful, and I had 5 small children. So it's like, how am I going to get this fitness? People would call it fantasy. How are you going to get this fitness fantasy off the ground? And at the time, I was like, I don't know. I was like, I don't know. I just know that people believe in the things that I'm doing. People are receptive to the things that I say, and they're getting results. I said, so I'm just going to lean into what I'm good at, and then eventually a door will open. So I did that for a couple of years. I built up my following organically, and then one day, 2 of my clients approached me about opening up my own gym, and I gave them the honest truth. We sat down, we went through all the numbers. They ended up investing in me. We opened up a 5,000 square foot facility. All because I kept my eye on what I wanted. It's like people focus on what the challenges are. There's going to be challenges in everything. But if you
Yes.
only focus on the challenge, going back to what you just said, they won't take that first step.
Yes. Yes. And
Yes.
see, yeah, that's what I tell the single moms who need to get some sort of a certification or degree so that they can have reliable employment. You just have to, first of all, it's a mindset. It's a mindset. You have to have the mindset, I can do this. I
Yeah.
will do this.
Will.
And
There it
then
is.
take that step in that direction. And yes, it's going to be one step at a time. Nobody's going to beam you up to there, it's not going to be like
Exactly.
that. And so I've been fortunate in that, had some bumps along the road, but I have been fortunate, and I kept trying, and I keep doing what I'm doing. I have chronic illness. I've gone through cancer. I've gone through hepatitis. I've gone through, a lot of stuff, but I'm still vertical and I'm still going, and
Damn
I'm
right.
not stopping, because I know in my heart of hearts, there's work to be done, and there are people who need to hear what I can share with them.
Absolutely. See, and I'm glad you said it like that, because when I'm working with people, that's just how I say it. I'm like, people need to hear things like only you can share them. Like, I have my own style. I'm a little brash in your face. Like, that doesn't work for everybody. But there are people who need that. Like, they've been spoon fed their entire lives, and they need to be hit with the brutal truth. But there's other people who are like, maybe been through a lot of mentally damaging things growing up, and I might be too intense for them. But they might hear from you and be like, you know what? She's the one that I need right there. And that's why I like to bring on different voices who are in the same space, because someone might hear something from me and they might be like, wow, he's a jerk. But I'm just straightforward and direct. Like, everything I say is heart centered. Like, I don't try to hurt people's feelings, but I just deal in the brutal reality of what you're going through. Like, this is what you're going through, and this is how we can get you to the other side. So I just want to expand a little bit on what you just said about getting like certifications and degrees. Just today in 2025, we live in an amazing time. People are getting successful with zero education and zero talent with the power of social media. Just think about that, right? Like there's a woman I interviewed back in 2021. She started a blog, and she didn't even realize she could monetize this blog. Like her husband made enough money for her to stay home, and she did the blog just to give herself something to do. And it took a friend of hers was like, you can monetize that, and she had no idea, right? So just doing something that she already does, she already enjoyed. That blog today is doing nearly 7 figures from sponsorships, selling of the recipes. Like she didn't have to learn anything new, and not taken away from what you said. That's absolutely true. I'm just saying, but there's another way as well. Because I always tell people, your big breakthrough, it's already in your mind. Like you don't have to learn anything new. There's something you're already doing that you can monetize.
Yes. In fact, I know a young widow whose husband died, and she is a fabulous baker. I've been bugging her to start selling her pound cakes, because I'm telling you, she could make a good living doing that. And you just have to find the right thing that you do and that you can monetize. Like you said, nowadays things are a lot different than they used to be, and you can do things. So I'm not a believer that everybody needs to have a college degree. My 3 children don't have college degrees, but they're doing fine. They have real strong work ethics, and they're doing fine. But I believe that everybody has something that they can do to earn a living and support their families. Now, there are women who are in pretty dire situations, and maybe they have several children, and maybe they need a bump up, a little help. So those women, if they get a certification, I'm thinking a 2-year degree of some sort, they can do pretty well, whether it's a dental hygienist or an LVN, that sort of thing. And so most communities have 2-year programs where you can get jobs. But if that's not you, if you're listening and that's not you, what he is saying is you can do something, can do something, whether it's bake cakes, make cookies. You hear stories. One woman here in town has a bakery, and she makes these fabulous cookies. And so there are things that people need that you can provide. And yes, maybe getting started is a real issue, but there are also organizations, small business administration and so forth, that can help you there. You just have to research, and now research is at your fingertips. Just type it in. It's
easy.
You're gonna get an answer. So
exactly.
If you have an idea, look into that idea. See what you can accomplish with that.
Yeah, so there was a woman I interviewed. I interviewed her twice on this show, and then I spoke at an event she had. So she was a teacher, and I think she got as high as principal, I want to say. But there were like political things within the school that didn't sit well with her, and that you really can't change because that comes from the Board of Education. So what she did was, instead of just dealing with a place that wasn't serving her purpose, she got out and she started tutoring. And little did she know, she was making like 4 times the amount tutoring than she was as a principal. So she's like, this is amazing. She's like, I want to teach other teachers how to do this. So she created a platform teaching teachers how to take their talents online and become a tutor. Now
Good
she's
for
making
her.
like buco 6 figures, but going back to what we both just said about, you can take what you're currently doing and find a way to make it bigger. Like all the things that I've gone through is like people, I have like, I don't know, 40 speaking bookings coming up, and all I'm doing is just telling things I've been through. Like I'm not sharing anything earth shattering and how to make $1 million in 5 days. I'm just sharing what I've gone through. because there's so many people out there who are in pain. They're stuck in a rut. They're still letting their past beat them up, and they don't know how to take that information and move it forward. So as we start to wind down, you mentioned in your bio about doing an autopsy of your past. Take
Yes.
me through that.
Well, one of the things I tell women, especially women who are going through a divorce, could be a separation, could be a breakup, but when you're going through that and you're looking at your future is not getting another man or getting in another relationship. It is looking at yourself. Do a complete autopsy of the relationship before you move forward. And so what an autopsy does, it rips it open and it looks at the inside of it and says, what wasn't right with this relationship? What could I do differently the next time? How could I make it better? And so it took me a lot of years to do this. Wasn't an overnight thing. I mean, I really did go through a period of thinking, oh, if I could just get remarried and everything be peachy. And, I went through that because I saw other people doing it and I thought that they had it made, but they didn't. They were just jumping or rebounding. And so what I tell women, do that autopsy. Men, do that autopsy. Don't go out and get into another relationship just like the one you're getting out of, and find out what it was that went wrong so that you can correct it and it doesn't happen again.
See, and I want to add to that because I had to do this myself because I was that guy. I would get out of one relationship and hop right into the next. Get out of that one, hop right back into the next without really taking any reflection time.
Mm-hmm.
And so so I've been single roughly 8 years now, and I took a lot of time because it's always this one's crazy, this one's this like you're always bashing the other person. But I was like, there's a common denominator here in all these relationships, me. So it's like, where did I go wrong here? It's like, was I a good enough listener? Was I a good enough, partner? Was I good enough in all of these different areas? So to your point, like I had to really look at, where did you go wrong? So if I do decide to date again, I can be a better version instead of trying to avoid this type of woman. Like I need to be this type of man. Is that what you mean when you say?
Oh, I love that. I love that. That's great. Really is. We all should hear that, younger maybe, but yeah, because it is, when you think about it, the common denominator is us, and we need to realize the situation, look at it really realistically. That my husband and I now, we dated for a long time before we decided to tie the knot. We were older, but we also had been through some stuff in other relationships, and we learned that way. And that's not the way you want to learn. You want to learn on your own. In the first chapter of my book is on solitude, not being afraid to be alone, not being afraid to have some of that personal conversation with yourself so that you can learn about who you are and what you need and what you want for your future, but what does it take on your part to make that happen?
Yes. So in our last few minutes here, what do we got? We got about 7 minutes or so, right? So let's talk about that single mom who's struggling. Maybe she's lost herself. Maybe she doesn't believe in herself. Maybe she thinks it's all her fault, right? How do you help her reframe those thought patterns?
Oh, well, we do something, I've got several points on that. But first of all, the solitude, looking at yourself, spending time to getting to know you and what your needs are and what you can provide the other person. But also, I'm a personality trainer, and I always use a personality profile when I'm coaching a single mom, to say this is what you need to learn about yourself, and in the process, learn about your children and your ex. or the person you're with at the time, because we're born with certain innate qualities. And once you understand that and you can identify that, your relationships are going to be better. That's another point. Another point I get into is boundaries. I taught a class once years ago, and I was going to do a series on boundaries. I thought, well, this will take about 6 weeks. A year and a half later, we were still studying boundaries because so few, at least women, I think, but some men have trouble with boundaries. And that means they don't know how to say, you can come this far in my life and you can do this much or say this much. But at this point, you can come no further. In other words, had a mom one time that she had trouble with her mother calling her and getting into her life. I said, well, just don't answer the phone. It was like a light bulb went off in her head. Like, it never occurred to her that she could not answer the phone. And nowadays, everybody's got IDs. You know who's calling you. So there are so many little things. And right behind me on the shelf, I've got a whole passel of books on boundaries. And I teach that to women because I've seen a lot of them have boundaries that are broken. Sometimes it's broken because of child abuse when they were young. And that automatically rips your physical boundary away. And whenever you grow into puberty, you don't realize that you actually have a choice. You can say no, you can keep people at a distance. Not everybody has that option, but I'm saying that we often don't teach girls that they can have a boundary, and it's certainly okay to do so. So those are a few of the points that I teach. I also talk about having a vision. The last chapter is on working with children who are blind, which was my last profession. And I'm writing about that now, the things I learned from those girls who are now women about accepting life's challenges and being optimistic and visionary, even though they can't see. So I've got a lot I can say, but those are the main points.
Okay, so I want to double down on what you said on boundaries, because I think that's huge. Because here, being in the gym, there's mostly, I mean, we have a decent amount of men, but it's mostly women. So I hear a lot. I've heard a lot over the years, training thousands of women. Like I've heard it all. But one of the things I always get I have to, dot, dot, dot. And I always respond with, well, why do you have to? Like, why do you have to? Because somebody else might get mad for a second? It's like, I donated a kidney to my sister when I was 38. For whatever reason, going through that process, I felt my mortality, right? And ever since then, I'm like, I'm not doing anything I don't want to do. It's like, I'm nice and I'm respectful about it. Like, I'm not a jerk about it. But if I'm invited somewhere, I'm like, no, thank you. And now that I've done it enough, people have accepted my boundary. So if they ask me and I say no, it's not a big deal. It's just in the beginning, when you first start laying that boundary, people might give you some pushback.
They are going
to. Once they're used to it, right? Once they're used to it, then they're going to understand, all right, I can't shake this person.
Right.
So I want you to go a little deeper before we finish. And it's okay. And if you have the time, if we go over a little, that's fine. Because I think this topic is important.
Yeah, it is important. It's very important because I think, women in my era, especially, were taught that they needed to not be angry. That wasn't pretty, not be confrontational. That wasn't feminine. But you need to realize that it's okay to protect yourself. But before you can do that, you've got to know yourself. You've got to have confidence in yourself before you can say to somebody, don't mess with me. Now, I did go into this marriage with very strong boundaries. And a lot of independence, I guess you could say. But my husband said I was single too long because he couldn't make me into this, submissive woman. But I think that truly it starts with girls when they're young. They need to know when they're young that it's okay to be who they are, and that they don't have to meet a certain standard of what is beautiful, attractive, feminine, and all of those things. It was, I don't know if it was more so whenever I was young, but it seems like it was. I mean, nowadays girls can wear just about anything they want to wear, but in those days you had to dress a certain way. Now you can carry that to the extreme, and we could talk about that another day. But I think that teaching our young people to have enough confidence that they can say no, they don't have to say yes to everything, and it's okay. It's okay.
Yes. So I want to ask you a question. Like, speaking of the young people, I want to get your opinion on this, because I actually spoke at a career day at a local high school. And do you think it's difficult for young kids to earn a living nowadays? And this isn't like an I gotcha question. Like, I want your genuine answer.
Okay, you mean for the young people to have jobs as young people?
Yeah, yeah, to just earn a living. Because, like, all I see on the news now is like there's gonna be no jobs for Gen Zs, and they're gonna struggle, and they're not this, and they're not that. Like, what is your opinion on
Well, oh gosh, you could open a can of worms here, because there are people who think that all of our young people need to be on a path to college entrance, that they need to make good SAT scores, that they need, or ACT, depending on where you are, and that they need to get into the college they want to get into, and that they need to have well, I don't agree with that. I mean, we have so many jobs out there that are not being filled because we don't have people trained and skilled, just regular skill. I saw a cartoon in the newspaper just this last week, and the young boy was graduating from high school, and the man in the suit tie was saying, "I have two words for you: trade school." And the whole thing is that we need people in trades. We have a lot of that here in our area. We have colleges and we have schools just for that, because we have loads of need for basic trade jobs. That's one of the things that built the area here, because we were built after Spindletop, and most people will know that Spindletop was the big oil gusher that came in the early 1900s. And then this area built up, and then refineries were built. And in the 1940s, this was nothing but just refineries, Gulf Oil, which some people may still remember, Texaco, all of that was here. It was here. And that's why people came to work. They didn't have college degrees. So when kids are coming through high school, used to, high schools had a lot of this. They had a lot of the trade training. You could go into the various trades, whether it was car mechanics, electricians, carpentry, various trades. But now this shift went where people thought everybody needs to go to college. Well, I could get political, and I'm not going to do that, but everybody doesn't need to go to college. I have a grandson that's going to go into heating and air conditioning school. And you know what? That's a good career nowadays. And others that are going to maybe go into electricians. Some of them are thinking big, they're big engineers and all this, but I'm just fine with it. I think young people need to look at the market, look at the job market, look at what people need and what people are hiring. Go with that. Don't be high in the pie. I want to be this or that kind of nuclear scientist or, neurosurgeon or something, because how many people need that? How many, I was foolish. I really look back and think my dad was right. I should have gone into something else, but I had to do what I did in order to support 3 children and not be having to put them in childcare all summer. So it worked out. We had insurance. But the thing is, when I look at the world and I look at these young people, and we have several grandchildren that are that age, about to go into graduate from high school. And some of them live in Norway. And Norway is exceptional in how they are channeling their people, whether it's into hospitality and hotels, chef training, basic skills that the job market needs. So don't just go off to college, get a 4-year degree, think, okay, now I can get a job. I can tell you some that I know right now that did that, and they're not able to get a job.
See, and now I want to tie that back to the single moms, because it's the same thing. Because like for the single mom, you don't have to work 50 hours a week and put your kid in daycare. Like you don't have to do that. So to your point, it's like, what skill do you have that you can teach someone else? Like the number one e-commerce sellers are how-tos. Like my book is How to Overcome the Fear of Public Speaking. Because like a lot of people are terrified of that. So I'm teaching you a way how to get over that, how to take your stories and turn them into something powerful. Like with you, go back and revisit the past, do an autopsy of your past. You're teaching people how to take their mess and turn it into something positive. So for any of the single moms watching here, again, the answer, it's already in your subconscious mind. And if you need to speak further, Gail, let people know where they can get in contact with you.
Gail Showalter.com. I'm all over the internet, Instagram, YouTube, you name it. I'm there.
Yep, I think I have all of those links in the show notes too. So, all right, I'm going to throw it to you for one final message. Again, to that single mother who's struggling, who doesn't believe in herself, who thinks she's broken, who thinks she's not enough. What are some words of encouragement for her?
Well, you hit the nail on the head. You got to believe in yourself. You got to have that confidence and say, well, you're saying, well, I don't have it. Well, do some things to get it. In other words, I don't care if you go to the library, if you go online, you talk to ministers, you talk to counselors, start uncovering that person within you that has something to offer the world, because you do. And be easy on yourself. Be gentle on yourself. Don't beat yourself up. It's self-love and self-respect that will get you anywhere you want to go.
Love it. Love it. And I'll just add one more thing: self-forgiveness.
Yes.
A lot of women that I've worked with, they blame themselves. And it's like, if you blame yourself, okay, forgive yourself now. Yeah. Like that goes a long way. Well, Gail, this was great. We can talk all day about this topic. So thank you very much for taking the time to come. Where are we here? I do panels. Let me show you so I do panels. I usually invite up to 6 of my former guests. I pick one topic. Like I pick the guests first. And because I've obviously interviewed you all, so I know what you all can speak on. And then I pick one topic, and we each round table that one topic for an hour and 15 minutes. And people always say, well, what if we all think the same thing? It's like I think I've done 16 panels so far, and there's always been a unique perspective. Going back to what I was saying earlier, there's not one way that works for everyone. There's not just one style that works for, like, I can say the word vacation. What's the first thing that pops into your mind?
Nova Scotia.
See, Nova Scotia. Mine was palm trees.
No.
One word, right? One word, 2 different points of view right off the bat. So like when we're talking about these subjects, like that one was embracing vulnerability. I've done how to get back up when life knocks you down. How to love yourself again after heartbreak, things of that nature. And so, like I said, I pick the guest first, so I know what combo I'm working with, and then I'll pick a topic that I know all of us are well versed in. So if you're interested in that, let me know, and I'll add you into the list. I'm gonna do one more in 2026. I think I've only done one this year, but other than that, you're welcome back if you want to do a part 2 also, because I know we barely scratched the surface in your story.
Oh, love to. I love to. This is good. Yes.
Awesome. Good. All right. Well, again, thank you. I'm going to cue the outro, and I will see you soon. Take care.
Bye.
You've been listening to Shut Up and Grind. We hope you've gotten some useful and practical information from this show. Robert has over 20 years experience pouring his knowledge and expertise at many events in the service and fitness industry, as well as secondary schools and universities. He has a true passion for helping others break through the barriers that are holding them back. To book Robert B. Foster to speak or to reach out, go to robertbfoster.com. Till next time, shut up and grind.